Well, my publishing date has come and gone. It has been officially 30 days since my self-imposed deadline of October 7th, 2025, launching and releasing the first book in my fantasy duology, Wrought in Iron, and obviously that is not here. I've been pondering and thinking about the decision that I had to make in order to push it back. And while it's not the end of the world, it did come with a fair bit of disappointment and frustration, but also a lot of peace in knowing that I was making the right decision. I thought, you know what, that would be a great conversation to have, because how many of us have had projects or goals or dreams and we knew we could get to it at a certain time and life happened and we got derailed, and turns out we had to make some changes. So I want to talk about what it is like to wrestle through those feelings, through those emotions, and what I'm doing to keep myself sane. Hello friend and fellow adventurer, my name is Kayla. I'm a multi-passionate creative doing all the things and documenting my messy middle so you don't feel so alone in yours. Welcome back to Sidequests and Sideeyes, part quest log, part strategy guide, part absolute chaos. Around these parts we like to hardcore side-eye hustle culture, go the pace of grace, which is usually pretty slow, and celebrate every small win. Showering does count. In November of 2023, I participated in my first NaNoWriMo. If you don't know what NaNoWriMo is, it's National Novel Writing Month, something like that, National Novel Writing Month, yes. And it's now a de facto company. It's a little bit weird. Anyways, there's a lot of drama surrounding that you can go find and research on your own. During that season of my life, I was going through a very intense wave of depression, and my therapist suggested I journal. But here's the thing, I really kind of hate journaling. I really hate journaling. I would love writing. I do love writing. I love the process of writing. I think it helps just process things really well. And so I thought, you know what, I'm not going to journal. What if I just write this story? The goal was always just to get out what I was experiencing depression-wise into a story, to insert myself into a story in some way, as a character who is struggling with similar things that I was struggling with, these different tensions, and to work through the things that I was going through, but through a fun fantasy story. Well, I ended up swapping chapters with one of my good friends, Becca. This is something we have now been doing for nearly 3 years. I don't know. I can't do math. And she was reading it and said, Kayla, this is really good. You should think about self-publishing this. I told her no. And then eventually I got to the place where I was like, fine, I'll self-publish it, but I'm going to do it under a pen name, and I'm going to be anonymous, and I'm not going to tell anybody about it. Only you're going to know about it. And then maybe my husband and some friends. And she was like, okay, I mean, I'll support you in that, but I feel like this should be something that you share with other people. It's really, really good. And so, it, more time went by, and I started to really fall in love with my story. I thought it was really, really good. Obviously, it's going to be one of the first things I write and actually put out there. So I don't expect that I'm going to be some, amazing Stephen King or, name any of the high-end writers, but I was proud of it and I really liked what I was writing. So I thought, you know what, fine, I'll tell people that I'm writing it, but I'm not going to tell my family. I'm going to keep it a secret from my family. And then, eventually my friend just kept encouraging me, like, this is something that you should be proud of and you should keep going after it and let people know, when you're ready, but you should let people know about this because this is a really good story. And so that one book ended up turning, it was supposed to be one book turned into 2 books. The first book that was supposed to be 1 book but became 2 books didn't have a magic system. I ended up adding a magic system halfway through and realizing, oh, this isn't one story, it's a duology. So it was a whole process. And then I came around and decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually do this thing. I have this story. I like it. I'm proud of it. I am going to self-publish it. So at the beginning of this year, I looked at where I was at. I was already 2 edits in, and I thought, you know what, I can definitely get this done. And I truly, truly believe I could have. Had life not kind of slammed into me, I truly believe that I could have gotten everything done and ready for an October 7th release for the first book. I really wanted to make sure I was finishing the second book because the first book didn't have a magic system when I first wrote it. And then the second book obviously had a magic system, but I was still figuring out the magic system as I was writing because it was I'm more of a discovery writer, somebody who writes and figures it out along the way. I don't really go into a story knowing what I'm going to do. I just kind of bleh. So I knew I need to finish the second one so that if there are any plot holes or something that doesn't make sense, I need to be able to fix that in the first book before I, launch it and then have all of these plot holes, right? So the goal was to finish the second book so that Becca could read it and make sure like, oh, yep, all of that makes sense. Or like, oh, consider this is, here's some plot holes here. And around May or April, I just hit another huge wall of depression and anxiety. And it just really took me out. And I just had some things in my life get shifted about. And I tried to keep up. I really did try to keep up. And I think it was around June or July, I started looking at it and I just realized I'm not writing fast enough to get to the place where I'm going to be able to keep this deadline. And it was really painful to make the decision. But when I thought about the story and how proud I am of the story, I knew I didn't want to rush it. I knew I didn't want to rush it because I feel like my story deserves more than that. And I've put too much effort and energy and love into this story to just rush and try to push it out there simply because I said I was going to launch this by October 7th. And I had told people October 7th, that's going to be it. I wanted to launch around my husband's birthday. Well, like I said, that came and went, and I made the decision that I was going to pause and I was going to push it off until probably spring or summer of next year, and also kind of give myself permission to say if I have to put it off another year, I'll put it off another year. And that was really painful because I had the artwork for the cover and just had a lot of things shift, and so I had to make peace with the fact that my book is not going to come out when I thought it was going to come out. So again, I don't really know what the purpose of this video is, but I think maybe just to comfort you, to share with some of you if maybe you've had a dream, maybe you've had a goal, and somewhere along the way, like life did happen, and you're sitting there looking at the decision. You're like, I've invested so much into this project. I've invested so much into this thing, this dream, and I'm realizing that my original deadline is just, it's not working anymore. I thought I would be here by this point in my life, and I'm just not there. And because I haven't quite crossed that, milestone, I can't, I'm going to have to push pause, or I'm going to have to slow it down, or I'm going to have to maybe make it a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. And I think that it's okay to have those moments of just, there's going to be a grief around that, of recognizing, I thought I would be further by now. I thought life would be different by now. I've been fighting for this for a long time, and I'm still here scraping my way by. It gets exhausting. And I think you need to take some time to kind of grieve that and just allow it not to fester. We don't want it to fester, but just to allow it to exist. Allow the emotion to exist. I always like to say, and I don't know if I didn't come up with this. I can't remember where it came up with, but I kind of crafted it into my own words, is you cannot heal what you will not name. So you can say all day, oh, I'm fine, and I know I should have paused. I'm glad I paused. This was better for me. It's better for the book. It's better for everything. It's better for the project. I'm going to be happier. All of those things can be true. But the way we move through some of these disappointing times is by facing it long enough to recognize this really hurts and this is really disappointing. And I worked really hard and I just thought it would be different. And I'm going to have to change my plans, and I'm going to have to wait a little longer, maybe. And maybe I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to wait. I thought I was finally past this. You need to face that, and you need to name it and accept that maybe you don't maybe you don't like your life the way it is. I wrote this Substack article, and I'll link it down below, but I wrote this kind of like Substack series where I was talking about basically like you won't admit that you actually hate your life. And the reason why you can't get past a certain moment in your life, or maybe a certain rut, is because you keep telling yourself like, no, it's great, everything's fine, and it's not that bad. And you're trying to toxic positivity your way out of heartbreak. You're trying to hustle your way out of really heavy disappointment, and you keep ending up stuck. It's because it's like, well, you're not admitting the truth about what's actually going on. And the truth about what's actually going on is you're really frustrated, you're really pissed off, and you really feel like you've gotten the short end of the stick. It's not fair, and you really kind of hate your life. You hate where you're at. You're really not happy with how things turned out. And I think in order to move forward, you have to be able to admit that. And maybe hate is too strong of a word. I don't hate my life right now. I don't hate my life. But I will say there's been some moments in this year that I thought, I really don't like this. I really don't like where I'm at. I thought I was finally in a better place. I thought I was finally in a spot where I was getting my feet underneath me, and here I am again on the ground picking myself back up. And that's just demoralizing and sad. But I faced that, and I started going back to therapy, and it was one of those things where it's like, I can't really afford therapy, but this is one of those things where I'm like, I'll figure it out, because this is something I need to face this. I need to be honest with myself, and I need to be able to work through some of these heavy emotions. So how did I come to decide, oh, it's time? Like, how do you decide it's time to push pause, or to push back, or to go slower? I just got to this point where I knew I would be sacrificing my own well-being. Remember at the beginning, I always talk about how we side-eye hustle culture and we go the pace of grace, which is usually pretty slow. I recognized I would have to go at such a breakneck speed. It would not be plausible, and my art would suffer. And when you get to that fork in the road, you have to decide, do I want my art to suffer in order to make progress? If you make that decision, that's totally fine. Just know that you have to be willing to be okay with, I want to make more progress, more momentum. I want to move forward. But if I move forward at this breakneck speed, I will lose something in the process. If you can make that decision, then by all means. I've had to do that sometimes strategically. Sometimes I'm like, hey, my quality is going down, but I need to move forward, and end of story. But then there are other times where you look at it and you think, I'm not willing to sacrifice quality for the purpose of going faster. And I'm not willing to hurt myself in the process to get to a deadline that, in the end, I'm not saying it's done. I'm not saying I'm over and I'm quitting and I'm giving up. It's just, I'm going to have to do another delay, or I'm going to have to stretch the timeline again. That doesn't mean you're giving up. It's hard. It hurts. It doesn't mean you're giving up. And you have to make those decisions. You have to weigh those in the balance and decide what is best for you in that particular season. And what was best for me in this season was, I love this story. I want it to be the best that it can be. And I'm not willing to sacrifice quality for the purpose of hitting this deadline that doesn't really matter, because nobody knows who I am. I'm not a big author. I'm not a big known. I don't have a massive platform. I'm not an influencer. Nobody knows who I am other than, those who are closest to me. Like, nobody knows who I am. I'm not that important. And so it's a deadline that I imposed for myself. Nobody is holding this over my head, only me. So that's how I made the decision for myself to go ahead and push pause, push back. I don't even like saying pause, because I'm still working on it. I'm still editing. I'm almost done. I have maybe like a chapter and a half plus an epilogue in the second book, so that I can go back into my third edit for the first book. And I'm okay with that now. Still kind of stings. When my publishing date came and went, that stung, not gonna lie. But I feel very good about the decision that I have made. So where do we go from here? Well, we just keep working. We just keep working on it. I'm still writing. I'm still plugging away at my story. Still love my story. And I'm really excited to jump back into edits and to keep moving forward. I have the cover art and it's done. And that is on my Patreon. If you want to get a sneak peek of the cover for my book, then you can join my Patreon and check that out. It is there and the link is below. And if you are like me, maybe you are in the same shoes that I'm in and you are facing some hard decisions and realizing, wow, this dream that I've that I've been going after really hasn't loved me back. It's been a little disrespectful and I'm still stuck, and I'm realizing that I have a goal or a milestone I'm trying to achieve, and I'm gonna have to push pause for maybe a season, or I'm going to just have to stretch my timeline. Maybe it was supposed to be next month and it's going to have to be next summer. Maybe it was going to be next year and it needs to be 2 years. Whatever it is, if you are feeling that way, then I have created this fun little thing called the Do Less Side Quest. I made this from my heart, from what I'm struggling with right now, what I went through this summer of, okay, I'm facing this tension of I'm not really happy with where I'm at, but I'm relentless. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting. I love this. I'm going to keep moving forward. But how do I keep moving forward when I just feel crushed? You know, how do you actually do that, right? Other than just the basic advice of just show up and keep going. That's helpful and that is true, but is there a way that you can help me, get past some of these humps and these ruts in the road? And so I made this 7-day challenge. It's called the Do Less Side Quest. I think it's fun. I think it's such a blast. It's cheesy, it's corny, it's 7 days that I take you through this narrative, like you're the main character and you're going through these different obstacles, and each obstacle is taking you through to a journey, and it's helping you unequip. If you like Skyrim, I use a lot of Skyrim references, but it's helping you to unequip a piece of equipment that might not be serving you anymore. So for example, one of those is hustle, right? We're trying to hustle, we're trying to force ourselves. There's another one that's urgency. It's like, okay, we need to unequip urgency. We need to unequip hustle. And instead we need to equip patience. We need to equip steadiness and readiness. Anyways, I'm very proud of it. It's corny, it's cheesy, and it comes from the depths of where I'm at now, this frustration, this internal battle of how am I going to get to the other side of this when I feel so disappointed? And it's all about doing less to become more. Well, friend and fellow adventurer, we've come to the end of this video, and I just want to end like I always do, which is, if you haven't heard this before, or if you haven't heard it recently, I want you to know that I am proud of you and your life is worth getting back up for. I'll see you next time. Bye, friend.